we welcome Professor Raghuvir Singh, sir, Vice-Chancellor of Tirthankar Mahavir University, to give his keynote speech. Yes, sir. Warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Yes,
Rane.
yes. Thank you. We are meeting twice.
Yes.
This is our second time.
Let
You
me
have
on the
delivered
outset.
wonderful session.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me on the outset thank Som for bringing us together once again.
Yes, yes.
And let's compliment him for driving FELA as it was intended.
Yes. FELA has conducted one more FDP earlier on national education policy, where people have given sessions. Yeah.
It was wonderful listening to Dr. Sunil, his high octane, optimistic viewpoints on COVID and its impact on higher education. I would restrict myself to, impact on quality. And though I will not sound to be pessimist, but maybe some of the issues could, lead others to believe in that way. I would deal with three aspects of education and put forth my points, and then you draw your own conclusions whether it is there has been a negative impact on quality or been a positive impact. Okay, all those things said by Dr. Sunil, we all endorse them. There's no doubt about it. A lot of things have changed. But there have been impacts on quality. Let's look at. Okay, so I begin very, fundamentally on what actually education means. The education word actually comes from a Latin word called educare, which means to train or to mold, right? And another parallel word is educere, means to bring out from within. That means to bring out the potential of a child. Right? That's one aspect. Another aspect is, why do we provide education? What's the purpose? You say, as long as education meets the purpose, it's termed to be a quality education. So meeting the purpose is most important. Now, if we have to look at that, what is the purpose? See, any educational institution has three pillars to focus on education. The first one is delivery, second one is research, and third one is employability and entrepreneurship. Most of the private universities would probably focus on employability and entrepreneurship. Now, what is required to prepare a child for employability and entrepreneurship? Let's draw, some of the conclusions from the great philosophers of education. I'll just refer to three education philosophies and a couple of education philosophers. Whether, take the Indian case of Vivekananda, Tagore, and Gandhi. Similarly, some of the foreign philosophers like John Locke, even Karl Marx, Rousseau, John Stuart, David Hume, Russell, etc. All of them had a commonality in their purpose of education. I'm not going to elaborate on all them. All of this said, the purpose of education should be finding inner self, that is the discovery of the self. Another one was adapting to the outside world. The second important purpose of education was. The third one was education for life and education throughout the life. The fourth one is, developing abilities or skills and attitude to succeed in one's life. And however, all of them said, education is not about identifying or equipping with information. They all said education, don't consider a child like an empty vessel to fill it. Or don't consider a child to be a blank slate or which a teacher has to write. All of them had the same view about education. If I draw another parallel about education method, how education must be delivered, what kind of purpose. Some of the scientists and great educators, Oscar Wilde says, anything worth learning cannot be taught. Anything worth learning cannot be taught. That means there has to be great involvement of the child in learning and doing. Similarly, whether it is an Einstein or it was on Herbert Simon, as far as back Benjamin Franklin and Confucius, everyone said that you involve the child if you want him to learn. Now, I don't know how much this 2 years of period we have been able to fulfill. So you draw your own occasions based upon these things. Similarly, if you look at a different level of these philosophies, right? There are student-centered philosophies and teacher-centered philosophies. So if you go by the philosophies like progressivism, constructivism, and existentialism, children or students suffered a lot because all of these required the student's involvement or the presence of the student. However, if you look at other aspects like behaviorism, existentialism, or perennialism, all they require is a teacher-centered learning. That means delivering content to the child or filling the vessel with the content. Now, we make our own judgments about how much we have suffered during this particular period. Now, when it comes to quality, you can measure quality at 2 points. One, at the input points, and another one is the exit point. Input point means, are we able to attract quality students and faculty to our institution? Output point, that is exit point, is basically graduate outcomes. Whether our students have met their purpose or not. Now the purposes are two: either he goes for an higher education or the government services or the corporate jobs. So these are the two ways to measure quality of education. The first part, of course, during this, that is entry point, wasn't all that relevant. However, exit point was very, very relevant. Similarly, a child, in fact, comes to the college not for listening to the faculty, not for gaining that content. He comes for that holistic education. That means he or she must have 3 important learnings. 1, knowledge. In today's time, he may not require a greater support of the faculty. And he may, at a graduate or a postgraduate level, can do self-learning. And all that online learning today is, whether it is asynchronous or synchronous, whichever way. Second most important is intelligence. That is what he or she should be able to do with knowledge he has gained. And third one is your wisdom. That is when to use your knowledge and where to use your knowledge. Now the last two, intelligence and wisdom, requires fellow colleagues. It requires others' presence for discussion, for debate, and actually using the knowledge, which was not possible during this particular. So as a student, I would like to come to the college not for gaining only the knowledge. I like to come to the college to gain my confidence. I like to come to the college to gain the network, fellow networks, develop my network. I like to come to the college to develop the ability to deal with uncertainties or, situations which are not I'm used to, different situations, or deal your new situations. And above all, I want to come to the college for the purpose of engagement to apply my knowledge. Now, out of these 4 or 5 things during this period, none of could be possible. So in a nutshell, when I say, it's basically developing not only your IQ, it's all about SQ, PQ, EQ, and CQ. That is confidence quotient, your emotional quotient, your social quotient, your adaptability quotient, physical quotient. All these actually suffered during this particular time period. Though the first aspect, that IQ, was possible to deliver through whatever the technology we had. So if I conclude, the focus of learning is not those 3 R's, that is reading, writing and arithmetic, which we have continued for so long in the past. The focus should be 3 H's, that is his head, heart and hand. So what suffered is your hand suffered, your heart suffered, and your head also half of it, because head requires both lower level thinking and higher order thinking. So when you were delivering through online, it was mostly a lower order thinking which was actually proposed, not other aspects. And come further, if you want a child's holistic development, you require certain methods to be used, and those methods should be engaging. They must be active. Action learning must happen. The child must be engaged, and you make him to do things. So what we could do during this period, we all know it well. So ultimately, I say a quality education requires creating a unique learning experience in an educational institution. But unfortunately, this unique learning experience hampered badly during this particular period. What happened, and what my fellow colleague Dr. Sunil said, we continued education, no doubt about it. We continued education, but the quality actually suffered. Now, based upon these 3-4 ideas of mine, the individuals can conclude or draw their own conclusions whether quality suffered or we were able to maintain the quality. So take your own judgments. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak my mind. Thank you, Dr. Santosh, and everyone else.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.